Good morning, comrades. You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. This week we are joined by City Council candidate in District A, also DSA member Bob Murrell, joining us on the show. Bob, how you doing?
I'm tired, but I'm at it. It's a long struggle. I just
Hitting doors will wear you out after a while, won't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been knocking doors just about every weekend since March. So it's definitely been a long haul. But yeah, I was just lamenting about my kid's birthday that was today, and so being a working parent while also trying to run a campaign, it's challenging for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're the reason why I'm doing it.
Sure. I guess, yeah, just while you're here, go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about yourself and then about your campaign.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Bob Murrell. I'm born at Charity Hospital 40 years ago. Grew up public schooled, graduated from Riverdale here in the metro area.
Riverdale. I used to teach school at Jefferson Elementary for a lot of years, and my kids would always go to Riverdale.
I went to Jefferson Elementary. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Miss Bourne was still there, right? Just when Miss Bourne was there.
Absolutely.
She was my. I was a student teacher under her, which is hilarious.
Wow.
Miss Bourne, Miss Bell, and Miss oh god, what was the lady's name downstairs? The first grade teacher. She was still there too. There was like so many teachers there, like taught there forever.
Was it Richmond?
Yeah, Miss Richmond. Yeah, she was still there too when I left.
She was my first grade teacher, and my daughter's in first grade, so she always asked me about what it was like when I was in first grade. So I always have lots of stories that I barely remember from back then.
When I got like a job there, I worked at Jefferson Elementary for a couple of years after student teaching, and like I had Miss Bourne's like old room, like I took it over after she retired, and she had a whole bunch of like lockers and cabinets and stuff like that, and in there she still had, when I left, those, remember the purple ditto sheets, like the roll-off ditto sheets that used to have a million. They still had those in there, just like covered in like silverfish and gross stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's wild to think back on, just like my mom was a teacher's assistant in the Jefferson Parish public school system, and just thinking about the memories that I have of what public education was like in the early to mid 90s. And kind of the legacy that we have now of how much education has changed, especially since COVID. And just kind of the evolution of public schooling here in New Orleans too, under the charter system, and seeing Leah Chase School coming back into the public district control. Yeah, it's interesting to see how many people want that. When I talk to people around town.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your campaign. Go ahead, man.
Sure, I got distracted. Yeah,
we went down memory lane for a minute, I guess.
We'll take the long route.
Yeah,
like I mentioned, I'm a parent of two young children, and prior to that, I've been in the software industry for 15 years now. But on the side, I was a performer for a while. I did musical theater, improv, sketch, stand up, and then I became a parent. And I remember I was at an open mic at Dragon's Den, and did my set, was fine. And then afterwards, it was like, why am I here? Why am I not spending my time, trying to make this world as best as it could be for not just my kid, but all kids, right? And the more I got into being politically engaged, whether that was volunteering for electoral campaigns or trying to get engaged with mutual aid work, and then eventually I joined DSA at the start of the pandemic. That's when I felt like, all right, I got to get organized, right? The world is starting to not seem so stable as it used to be, and through that,
and it wasn't even that good before.
No. And I remember I was doing a professional development thing with my boss at the time, and he liked to ask us questions about like what do you personally like want to accomplish. I guess for other people it was like, oh, learn guitar or things like that. For me it was like end childhood hunger in New Orleans. And his questions are like, all right, well, how do you personally do that? It's like I don't know, win the lottery, I guess.
That's a good question.
And he said you could run for office. And I guess when your boss is telling you that, that's a possible route,
Mm-hmm.
I started to look at it and had a lot more people urging me to consider it. So yeah, in 2021, I ran for the same seat, City Council District A. Um, I had a lot of encouragement. It was also very challenging because we were in the height of the pandemic, and then Hurricane Ida hit. I'm grassroots funded and volunteer driven, so for me to try to juggle that and have a 3-year-old during this very hectic time in
A
New
lot going
Orleans.
on.
Yeah, but the whole time people just kept encouraging me. I remember knocking doors and someone's like, I'm going to vote for Joe, but like you should run again, and I'll keep you in mind. Keep at it, and I did. I did keep at it. I started, getting more engaged, not just in DSA, but just the organizing scene here in New Orleans in general. I joined Step Up Louisiana. I became a member of the Ion Surveillance Coalition. I guess I don't know how familiar your viewers are with those, but Step Up Louisiana is about labor organizing.
I'm very familiar with Step Up.
Oh yeah, yeah, and trying to fight for equitable, fair wages as well as good learning conditions as well for kids. Um,
Yeah, they were for last time I talked to Ben over there. He was like, it was kind of like a weird thing because he was I'm in Virginia now, but like he like messaged an account that I was running for. I was working for a union, SEIU. I was doing communications, running social media, and he like DMs me, and it's like, oh, it's Ben, okay, about the dollar store warehouse working they were doing. But yeah, I mean, back in the old days of DSA New Orleans, prior to the pandemic, back in 2018, 2019, we shared an office with Step Up Louisiana for a couple of years. We worked very closely with them in a lot of different ways, and yeah, they've done amazing work over the years.
Yeah, and their C4 sister organization, Step Up for Action, I'm proudly endorsed by them, so I'm excited about that, and having their platform continue to uplift what they're struggling for.
I still get phone calls for people phone banking for Step Up. I'm like, I'm not there no more, guys. Come on. It always makes you feel good to see that they're doing good work still, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm really proud of the organizer and training program that Step Up Louisiana has been going through. Their cohorts have been, really solid, working in a variety of different, fields and backgrounds, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just continuing a lot of the efforts that I do in all these different arenas of struggle here in New Orleans. Running for office kind of allows you to have a platform that you can elevate, as well as using your opportunities to speak to kind of further the demands that a lot of these organizations are having. And I'm just excited to continue to try to use this opportunity, not just obviously to be elected and to make the changes that we want to see, but beyond that, right? Beyond the ballot box, and making sure that people understand that, we're in a very challenging political environment right now, both nationally and statewide. And now's the time to get organized. Now's the time to plug into whatever groups, whether that's at your workplace or in your neighborhood or just in your city, to really step up and, be tied in, put yourself out there, get organized, because we're going to need it in order to not just defend ourselves in this moment, but also to advance the struggle of a fair and equitable city and society for everybody.
Right. So you mentioned just a moment ago your platform. I'm looking at your website. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about your platform and some of the things that you're running on in this upcoming election? I mean, you're a cool guy and all. That's great, but I mean, if you're not running on anything, or like this
Um,
is the thing that like when people talk about like Zoran Mamdani or whatever, is like, yeah, oh yeah, he's got great social media, he got an army of volunteers, but the whole reason behind it, the whole reason that it's even an issue or he's able to do anything is because he's running on a very very popular platform. So tell us a little bit about yours.
Yeah, and when I ran 4 years ago, I like to kind of use the mass line exercise, right? Like you have to talk to the people, you have to understand what issues that they're having, and that was
You
one
gotta
of
know
the
what's
big.
important. You gotta know what's important, like straight up, like
Right.
it's what it is.
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to like other campaigns, are kind of informed by their donors. I'm the opposite, right? I'm informed by the voters. So you're not going to see me have a narrative focus on crime. You're not going to have me have a narrative focus on only our roads are the only thing that's wrong in this city. You're going to see a lot of systemic issues that come out of the challenges that everyday New Orleanians are having. So yeah, it's broken up into 6 parts. It's very dense. A lot of people are like, "What's your number one thing?" I'm like, "I don't have a number one thing. My number one thing is justice." And it's not enough to distill it down to one little thing. So it's broken up into 6 parts. The first one is investing in our youth.
Mhm.
Ben, actually from Step Up, he and I, it was really inspirational what he's talking about. It's like we need like a generational investment in our
Mhm.
young people, not just like babies, but like all the way through like 25, really.
Mhm.
Um, just knowing the challenges that they've had to endure during their childhood, much less making sure that we have an environment that's sustainable for another generation after that, right? So things like extending the universal basic income program that we have as a pilot program, like really extending that out to as many young people that we can get. Having things like universal pre-K.
Mhm.
Right now, it's in like small pilot programs, really building off of that to provide it universally. So that way, we're able to genuinely have people give a chance to raise families in this city.
And it's something that we know is possible. I mean, the New York City, rolled it out. Crazy, crazy New York or whatever, what people like to say. But they rolled it out years ago, and I think it was just recently, like a few days ago, even where the state of New Mexico essentially put forward an entire like statewide like like child like preschool program, which is just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, good job, New Mexico. I did not,
Yeah.
I did not realize, I didn't realize that game that you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and not only is it common sense, right? Because you're allowing working families to, make sure that they're able to take care of their families, right? You have to have income if you are a member of the working class.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like it extends even beyond that because you have to have the job force in order to work at all these pre-Ks, right? And then you have to have the educated aspect of it as well. So it extends not just for taking care of kids, which at its root is what matters the most, but it has its impact in the families, in the workplace, and beyond, really. So I think there's a lot of just genuine opportunity for developing our workforce, not for tourism to satisfy tourists, but actually to like take care of New Orleanians that want to live here and want to work here and raise their families.
And like, I'm sorry, but like all this like never ending emphasis on tourism in New Orleans, like people are gonna come to New Orleans. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. You don't need to have all this like super like intentional like just crashing your entire like budget into that. Or I mean, I'm exaggerating, but like sure, it's an important part of the city, but if the people here are not taken care of, then what's the point of anything? What's the point of it?
Exactly. And I kind of joked with someone about like they're talking about colonialism and like you live in New Orleans, you still live under colonialism. When we have out of state developers buying up large swaths of our city in terms of housing and then putting it up on Airbnb,
Mhm.
that money is not staying in New Orleans. That money is leaving. And we are just removing housing stock. There's this old phrase about Disneyification of New Orleans that started under Mitchell Andrew. And we see that through the installation of all these security cameras with real time facial recognition. We see that through um, the heightened focus on downtown and even lighting. And we saw it especially during the lead up to the Super Bowl, where they were doing massive ramp ups on suites of unhoused encampments and introducing all these laws to like criminalize people's just existence, and seeing it from bipartisan, right? That was to me the scary part of like, all right, we just elected Donald Trump, and Jeff Landry was right before that.
Also, the New Year's Day, like, the
Mhm.
car driving into the quarter thing
Yeah.
too, like, that was just a gift on a silver platter.
And the New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation like immediately pounced on it. They
Yeah.
hired an outside consulting firm to come up with a series of recommendations. They embedded themselves into NOPD and Real Time Crime Center through the Super Bowl. So like it went through January 1st all the way through the Super Bowl. And of course, their recommendations are like, oh, well, we need more money for cops. We need more
Right.
money for policing. Even though our jail right now, OJC, has been over the legal bed limit for like over 20 months.
Mhm.
They want stuff full. And then when we see a prison break happen, suddenly it's like, oh, who are we going to blame but
How did this
ourselves for
happen?
filling up this jail?
Yeah. How could this possibly happen? We have yeah, it's entirely okay. So we talked about your first plank. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So the next one is livable and safe neighborhoods. And when I think of that, I think number one, livable housing, right? Making sure that we're sticking to the healthy homes ordinance that was just passed recently. That counts for renters, right? But
Tell,
also
tell us
for,
about tell us about healthy homes. Tell us about healthy homes, please.
yeah, so this was an initiative done by a couple of different advocacy groups, and it passed, I want to say maybe 12 months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that.
Hmm.
But the idea is just to lay out general guidelines on what is acceptable for rental properties, right?
Right.
And having mechanisms, excuse me, mechanisms to report landlords to make sure that you're not retaliated against.
Hmm.
But it does have a piece to it, right? It really requires a full set of enforcement, but we don't have a lot of people actually staffed in the city for enforcement.
Well, you need to have
So
the thing first before you can. I mean, the enforcement comes
yeah,
second if you have the standards established, right?
exactly. Yeah. And so for me, I want to try to do a number of things to make sure that we're able to satisfy those healthy homes. But the biggest challenge is just affordability. So private insurance on, home insurance right now is just skyrocketed in Louisiana.
Yeah.
There was a program that was started by the state for roof fortification, right? So that we're able to have homes be able to withstand, hurricane force winds. And in the process of doing that, the idea is to reduce the cost of private insurance because of these roof fortifications. So trying to get additional funding for that program, so that way we're able to either match or have a secondary program to do that. But also having funding available through this housing trust fund that was just passed as well, that has dedicated funding into it. Actually using that not just to um, build new housing, right, but also to make sure that people are able to stay in the housing that they are currently in, right? So that means for homeowners to find ways to, number one, bring their costs down for housing, whether that's with repairs or with assisting for, like I said, with insurance.
Hmm.
For renters, though, making sure that they're able to get rental assistance before the eviction process starts. Because right now, a lot of times, if you get served an eviction notice, that's when you can start to apply for rental assistance.
Hmm.
You make
That's
sure
too
that we're
late.
able to, yeah, people don't need to go to court and have to be brought into the criminal justice system because they're behind on rent, right? So trying to find ways to use the housing trust fund to actually house people while they're housed, and then
Hmm.
obviously building upon the idea of a safe neighborhood. For me, it's heating, it's flood mitigation, making sure that you have electricity that is reliably distributed to you, and if it
Yeah. And
isn't,
do you hear that?
having having some energy backup systems, whether that's batteries in homes or these neighborhood lighthouses and cooling stations that you could charge, things like that.
Especially
And
during the
also,
summer when it is dangerous to not have air conditioning. Like seriously,
absolutely,
New
yeah.
Orleans summers or I mean, everybody listening knows already. I mean, we just got through it. Brutal, famously.
It's still hot.
Oh no, it's still hot, but it's like it's September hot, which is different than August hot.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And also for me is making sure that people can walk and bike around their neighborhoods without, getting hit by cars.
Yeah.
My daughter wants to ride her bike, and I wish I could have her ride to school. I see even in Lakeview, which is, you know, nice. Um, Children don't bike to school without adults because like it's still that dangerous, even though it's a shared lane on Harrison Avenue. Like
Right.
no one observes it, right? So the
It's
concept
a
of
paint a line of paint on the street. People be driving in that all the time.
exactly, and yeah, so my concept of livable and safe really extends beyond just this notion of like crime and things like that, but really about a deeper quality of life. And I guess that segues into the third bullet point, which is quality of life beyond potholes. So obviously we have a lot of infrastructural issues.
Let's just say this really quickly. You're not against fixing the
Yeah,
potholes. But it's just like that's not the only thing, right?
exactly. Beyond the pothole,
Yeah,
right?
the potholes plus program. Let's call it that.
Yeah. And I joked too, I guess not really much of a joke, but that so much emphasis is put on the issues of roads that like it feels like someone's staring like 6 feet and 6 inches in front of their feet while they're walking off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Big road is really taking over the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I talk about is like how do we like improve the process, not just like bureaucratically, but like at its foundation. Like how do we have democratic processes where neighbors know when their stuff is going to get tore up well in advance? So like
Yeah.
they're the key stakeholder, right? Like you are in their neighborhood where they live. So they should be the first ones that are part of the process. They should know about everything that's happening the whole way.
Mhm.
Number two is making sure that like when a street is tore up, we are able to align projects towards it, right? It's such a big, long-going issue where road work happens, it gets finished, and then less than 3 months later, it's torn up because of a different utility company, or oh, they neglected to do this or that. I'm a project manager by trade, and like sequencing is such a key foundational thing. Is if you're working within a project and you have another project scheduled, like 8 months in advance, try to get those to line up, right?
Yeah, it needs to
Uh,
flow.
and the other thing for me too is again like having neighborhood buy-in of like, I wish we had a safer street for kids to bike on, right? And it's a 20-foot wide lane. You only need 12 feet for transit, so you have all this additional space that you could do a bike lane. You could do bios walls. You could, literally do anything that the neighbors as a group collectively can and should be able to come up with, right? And obviously, things like sanitation. We used to have garbage collection twice a week. We are paying the same rate, but just once. So we essentially doubled the daily rate for our garbage collection. We used to have municipal sanitation that would help collect. And I would love to see that back because number one, it'd be union jobs with
Yeah.
livable wages guaranteed. And also it's accountable, right? There's this whole contract feud going on in the quarter about trying to do political back scratching. Even prior to that, 4 years ago, Metro Waste was awful. The Hoppers went on strike. They got prison labor to come in,
Scab.
scab,
Prison. Yeah.
and it didn't get at the heart of the issue, which is that like all this money is not being invested into better working conditions and also better services. So
Mhm.
finding areas that we can use a municipal workforce, an expanded municipal workforce that really is targeting all of these critical issues that are happening in our city, I think is, the key to get out of so many problems that we have in our city.
Yeah. And then at the very least, you won't have all these commercialized, you know, utilities or garbage companies coming in. And I mean,
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. I mean, we don't need, we don't need, Sidney Torres just like running roughshod over the city anymore. Like we're past that.
Yeah, and you know, kudos to Ivy Waste for like investing in technology. Like they have this whole like monitoring station where you can like see where houses are not getting dropped off. That's cool. Like I think that should be a standard. It doesn't have to be in the private industry though. Like it doesn't have to be something where the profits aren't controlled by the workers. They aren't controlled by the general public. And then that to me is like what democracy looks like in this country. Is that we have a lot of unelected millionaires and billionaires making major decisions on how our lives live out in this country and in this city. And it doesn't have to be that way, y'all.
Right. Yeah. Quality of life, and that was quality of life, dignity for all. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I just kind of speaking again to the concepts of what it means to be in a democracy. It means having human dignity, and we've seen unfortunately a slide back when it comes to that. Obviously, I touched a little bit on the criminalization of being unhoused that really ramped up over the last year and kind of climaxed during the Super Bowl. It'll lead up to it. I'd love to roll those back. I'd love to actually try to give people housing as a human right. And that means, not treating people as if they are a problem or they necessarily have problems. There are people that have jobs that are unhoused. There are people that do not have mental health issues or drug substance issues that are unhoused. It's just that they are one of the unfortunate people that found the circumstances economically that forced them out to living in cars or living on the streets.
And those circumstances are prevalent right now. It is so expensive to live in New Orleans. I mean, what is rent now for just a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, I actually was canvassing in Hollygrove today, and I talked to this older woman. She's 80 years old. She lives with it's kind of like an elevated apartment building, and she said that the rent is now $17.50
for a 1-bedroom.
No, I think it's like a 4-bedroom, but it's in Hollywood.
Yeah,
and then she showed me her energy bill. It was $1,900.
Wow.
And she's like, I don't. What do I do? I'm on fixed income, and like her brother moved into the house to help with having income in the house, and then her son and his family also moved in the house. So there's 3 families, 3 sources of income.
And it's still struggling.
How do you keep up with that, right? And that to me is like, what is dignity? Is that living with dignity? That we're forcing people, like she's having to decide about, like, she has to keep on her lights, but also Medicare is not covering her prescription to its fullest extent now. Like, so for me, dignity for all is making sure that we have basic living standards here in this city and actually being able to enforce that. Obviously, the attacks on the LGBTQ community is important to me, as well as our sisters and brothers that have immigration status as well. Finding the city to actually be a sanctuary city, not just in name but in practice, right? So that means not cooperating or having NOPD have very limited, if not full, non-cooperation with ICE, with federal agencies, with state police that are looking to use the draconian laws that they're trying to use. So yeah, make people not be treated human. It's really unfortunate, and I feel like we need more proponents on all levels of government where we can get them. So that's very critical.
That point's really important now, especially too when you have, in the national politics, you have the president of the United States, Donald Trump, coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll send the National Guard into New Orleans because crime is so crazy or whatever." Like they love to just sort of. I mean, he's saying he's gonna. I mean, I look at it as almost like an invasion. They're just sending troops into these cities and just implementing. I mean, maybe not exactly martial law, but like the technically it's not that, but it's very, very sort of like in that same universe. And talking to my friends in DC, it has been a disaster for them.
Yeah, and there's already a lot of movement going on from what I've seen and heard of people organizing, people having spontaneous protests on the North Shore and Mid City, all across the city that aren't part of any named group. It's just citizens that are tired of this.
The North Shore? Wow.
Yeah, there's a fervent brewing for sure, and it just speaks to the broader fight for what we consider to be democracy in this country. And I think a lot of people are starting to be awakened to not just the lack of it, but also the attacks on it, and like the absolute coordinated push by wealthy establishment powers that are they're not satisfied with the status quo. It's not enough for them. The world is
they want it all.
Like, yeah, and it's incompatible with nature. So sorry, nature, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Daddy needs a second yacht.
Yeah. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. We are here with District A candidate for City Council in New Orleans, Bob Murrell. We're talking about his platform. Is there anything else you wanted to say on the dignity piece, or do we want to move it to utilities?
I guess we can go into utilities. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, please check out the platform in its fullest at bobfordistricta.com.
We will have notes. We'll have that in the show notes as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, it's got a lot to it, and like I said, it's not just from me. It's from a lot of different organizers across the city that I just want to uplift their work that they're doing. And I've been grateful to work with sit in on a QT cap meeting, or work with Union Migrante, and just finding those opportunities of not just partnership, but also, again, like, that is their struggle. They're fighting for their lives and survival. And, I want to not just be like an ally or an advocate, but I want to be a comrade, and I want to make this my fight too.
Yeah.
Utilities piece. Yeah. So, as part of DSA, when I first joined, we had been in talks of like, what is like the one thing that everyone hates in this city, and it's energy. It is the easiest thing to talk to people, is their disdain for this for-profit, massive corporation that has not only a monopoly on our public utility, but a guaranteed profit of 9% that they've been exceeding, by the way. And to know that we still have fair weather blackouts. We have just continual issues with not just adequate service, but consistent service, right? And that's not even talking about the nuclear power plant that doesn't work half the time.
Or their cartoon villain shenanigans that they use to get that implemented in the first place.
Right.
By like hiring people to go to city council meetings and speak up or whatever.
Yeah, to get their natural gas plant that didn't even do a cold start when we needed it during Hurricane Ida.
Yeah.
But they sponsor a lot of things, so we can certainly talk about philanthropy as a way to buy public good. But yeah, New Orleans is unique in that its city council is one of two city councils that has regulatory authority over its electricity grid. The other one is DC, because they don't have a state. Most other municipalities always go to the state, so it's a very rare and little utilized regulatory authority. So when it comes to rate increases, city council can say no. When it comes to climate standards, city council has thankfully implemented making sure that Entergy is not excessive in its carbon emissions. And part of that was they sold off their natural gas to a vulture capitalist funded Delta utility that now is a monopoly over much of the Gulf South.
I love that.
That's really cool. Their business model is more gas.
How's that working out for everybody?
So yeah, they use every trick in the book to circumvent any sort of regulations, all to maximize their profits, to pay out to their shareholders rather than investing in the infrastructure. So DSA was like, enough of that. We need to make Entergy pay. And so we started organizing demands that people were making, which was no more residential shutoffs because you can't afford it. It's inhumane. City council already temporarily bans it when it gets too hot or too cold. So it's clearly a public health and safety issue. So we should just ban it, right?
And city council does have the ability and the power to do that through that regulatory authority that you just mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah. Number two was no more rate increases. right? Or if you're going to do it, at the very least, prove that you're spending that money that we're going to start paying for to actually go into the things that you want. And number three is forgiving debt rolling back through the pandemic. And like I said, I mentioned someone whose energy bill was 1,900. A lot of that is just carryover debt in arrears and like having to do these payment plans and stretching it out, and it's like perpetual debt,
It's a trap.
extraction. So those are kind of the three big demands, but the ultimate demand was to move towards having Entergy run as a true, genuine public utility, one that is municipally owned and controlled. And when we did the power mapping, we're like, all right, how do we make that happen? And it's like there's only two bodies that can do that: Entergy, which they're not going to, or City Council. And so I wanted to uplift again that struggle that's been going on now for 4 years.
Several years.
And and so that's part of the platform as well, is all of those demands with a start towards looking at a municipalization of Entergy. They've offered it. They wrote an op-ed in the Times-Pic of like, look, we can stay here and you can keep complaining. We can sell you to another company, or the city can take it over. It's like, well, one of those sounds a lot better than the other two. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And then I guess the last one is root out corruption. That's fairly self-explanatory, but
for that. I mean, our mayor is currently under indictment, and that's just
it's like normal. I think like every mayor is going to be indicted at some point, right?
Yeah.
That's just how it's going to go.
But not even that though. Like it's based off of culture, right? There's I mean, I know you're
It's New Orleans. It's New Orleans. Like we have a reputation. Come on.
Yeah.
You try to stop. Try to get rid of tradition.
What's that old joke about like Balkan states have true democracy because everyday people can bribe politicians, but
exactly.
In American, you only have the wealthy that can do it.
Yeah.
And it's not just fighting corruption; it's also expanding democracy, right? And that's one of the ways that you fight corruption is you make people more engaged and more involved. There's this book, Planning from Below, by Marta Harnecker, and it's about like this whole decentralized participatory planning process. But through it all, her thing is like these different municipalities and counties all across the world that implement this, they actually have a significant reduction in corruption, and it's because everyday people actually know where their money is throughout the whole time, and they quickly call out when it's not there. And it's not just like one or two people; it's everybody because it's all their money. Finding opportunities to get people engaged so that they're not feeling like they're victims, but they're feeling like a protagonist. They are the main character in their life, and when they're fighting for something, like they're not by themselves. Like they are with a whole group of people that are all fighting for it. So that starts in the workplace, right? One of the things I talk about a lot is, my first year I want to visit 100 workplaces to like actively encourage unionization and organizing, right? Number one, like it'll increase our union density, and union density also increases wages, not just at those workplaces, but industry wide, right? So if we can't increase the minimum wage, we need to start increasing union density. At the very least, start bringing that up. Having more neighborhood power. There's this thing called the Neighborhood Participation Program, the NPP, and it was meant as a one of several tools that neighbors have in democratic processes to actually affect change in policy or zoning or conditional use. That only got trimmed down through the Landrieu administration for the NPP. And what it is that if there's any conditional use or zoning changes within your area, these companies or people that are trying to make the change have to host all the neighbors. And I think it's like a mile or half mile radius of where the change is going to be. And it's the airing of the grievances. It was very much like, what do or don't you like about this? And if you a good project, if you have a good option that's actually going to help people, they love it. They're so happy that you're doing it. But if you don't, you will hear about it. A great example of this is Blue Oak Barbecue bought the bar next door of the property. And the big thing was they wanted the property behind the bar so they could have an outdoor kitchen. But that whole area was off-street parking. And removing parking, even though they're increasing their restaurant size. Additionally, the parking spaces on the street, they converted illegally into parklets, but because of COVID, they were grandfathered in.
Right.
So all the people in the neighborhood have been having issues before this bar was being bought of patrons at Blue Oak taking up, blocking their driveways, things like that.
This is like a very popuar barbecue spot.
Right, and rightfully so. It smells amazing.
It's good barbecue. I mean, like, this is not an indoor family. Don't do that here, but you know.
Tubes Meadery is also across the street. Shout out to them.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Isaac Tubes, right?
Yeah, they're great, and their family meals program. Shout out to them. Like they fed.
Also not an endorsement, but shout out.
Just shout outs, just lots of shouting out. But anyway, so they had an MPP for this thing, and the neighbors were rightfully mad, and so they withdrew their conditional use. There is a loophole, however, if your city council member introduces it on your behalf, you don't have to host an MPP. And so Councilmember Geruso did that, and they hosted 6 Zoom calls or 8 Zoom calls, and it was less than a dozen people were invited. Almost all of them worked for the company that was making the zoning change, and there was one person from a neighborhood association that was present, one, and that neighborhood association is not particularly democratic necessarily. Like they don't have competitive elections, and the neighbors didn't know about it because again, it's just one person.
There's no communication happening.
And then so when the conditional use was up for a vote by the city planning commission, they sent out postcards saying, hey, submit your public comments. And a lot of people got it the day after the comment period. And they're like, number one, what is this? And number two, too little, too late. I can't comment.
Right.
And then, so that's when I started doing like the public records requests and digging around in it. And one of the neighbors, Blue Oak, wound up volunteering for my campaign because he's like, you're the only person that's actually like trying to make noise about this, about how undemocratic this is. So that's one of those things where it's not like hard corruption, but I mean, it in all intents and purposes, you have private interests circumventing public oversight for that same private interest.
Right.
And so for me, eliminating corruption starts with expanding democracy and finding ways to expand the MPP, bring about participatory budgeting, finding ways that we are able to get people engaged, not just as, receivers of information, but genuine stakeholders.
And you have a say in it. I mean, everybody's a stakeholder, but like you actually you could be a stakeholder in the situation, but actually have the power, at least, not as an individual necessarily, but as a collective, to do something about it. So you don't have, these corporations or big businesses or whatever, high dollar, funders of campaigns or whatever it is, just steamrolling, the little guy.
Yeah. And I'd love for us to start looking into doing publicly funded elections here, at least on the municipal level. As someone who, I'm still working, I wasn't able to quit my job to do this. It's a huge struggle to try to keep up with fundraising. Like we're grassroots funded. Our median donation is $25, right? The public finance reports came out for the most recent deadline, and like 2 of my opponents already have like $100,000 raised. I just broke 10,000, right? So it's a whole order of because again, I'm not contributions of $2,500 from 2 people and a married couple plus their businesses. Like that quickly adds up, and it's just the dynamic of how these campaigns are funded also lends to the dynamic of how these campaigns are run, how these campaigns are going to affect policy once they get elected. And that's a super hard challenge for us to get over, the influence. I mean, this isn't even like big money compared to like federal elections, right? But at the same time, like it does have massive impact when, for me, I'm out there knocking doors. That's how I'm getting my message out. And people have already gotten like push pulled twice and have mailers from all the other ones, and it's a challenge to keep up with it because at the end of the day, like your struggle is to get name exposure. But if if you're a working parent, and other candidates have had this issue too, it's a huge hurdle to overcome. Just to even like qualify, you need to have, hundreds of dollars just to get on the ballot, and then you have to then get more money to print materials and get your name out there. So yeah, trying to find opportunities for us to have people feel engaged and involved, to eliminate that apathy that is so prevalent, and really feel like people have something to live for, have a reason to be here in New Orleans other than to be a taxpayer, other than to be a consumer, but to feel like this is my city.
Right. And yeah, so you mentioned some of those challenges when it comes to, fundraising and your opponents. I mean, obviously you're a, small donation funded deal. What is the sort of like, what has support looked like? We've seen in certain situations, and obviously we don't have the, publicly funded campaign that we think that would at least sort of level the playing field so that more voices could be heard. But what does support look like in the way that you've seen it so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting. There's a lot of word of mouth, whether that's like literal word of mouth or like over text or social media. But even like I'm not a big fan of yard signs, but people love the yard signs. And I have a forum on my website where people can sign up. So I delivered one on Garfield Street, and then the next day I got a sign up on that same block across the street to deliver a yard sign. And then it took me a couple of days, but then I delivered it, and then 2 days later a third neighbor on that block got the yard sign. So it's one of the things.
Yard sign is a currency, baby. You got to do it.
And so yeah, it's little things like that where it feels like what we're doing is working, and the message really resonates with people. But yeah, in terms of like how the support's been coming out, like I said, $25 has been like the steady average. We've had almost 20 people now that are monthly donors, so like small dollar donors like every month, because it accumulates over time. Also had a lot of DSA members from all over the country, at least the ones that I can keep track of from the national forums, or names that I recognize. Yeah, we have like over 70 or 80 DSA members from all over the country, which is super cool to see that this type of campaign is something that they want to support, that they want to see succeed. And it just shows that New Orleans is on the front lines of it, but it's a fight that we're fighting all over this country.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website. Friend of the show, Gabby Bureau, Pearl Ricks, Devin Davis, DSA New Orleans, Step Up for Action, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense, Run for Something, and the 314 Action Fund are just a few of the people that have stepped up and supported you for this campaign so far.
Yeah, and I'm super stoked of just like regular people that want to put their name on the website too. Of like, yeah, I endorse you. I'm not anyone prominent, but like I said, I know I'm a friendly guy, and people feel that connection to me. But I really do feel like they see themselves in this campaign. They see themselves in this platform, and like I speak very passionately. I like to say I feel almost my most authentic self during this campaign, which is like counter to what you normally hear from people running from office, where they have to parse their words and they have to make sure they don't tick off the wrong person with their comments. I don't feel that way. I feel like exactly, yeah. I'm laying it all out there. I am all me. Maybe I lost that little part of me when I did stand up, but like being out here and just I'm trying to think of how often it's happened. Less than 5, where someone's like, no thanks. One gentleman said, was looking at my material, it's like, too much justice. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's just like, okay.
You're not Judge Dredd, okay? It's not like that kind of justice.
Exactly. But yeah, everyone has just been super positive about it. Even if they're not like outright saying like, yeah, I'm going to vote for you. A lot of them are like, I'm glad you came here because I'd never heard of you, and I'm going to look you up and compare you because they don't know that that option's out there, and that I think is critical. Not just DSA candidates, but progressive people that feel like they need to step up and are in a position to try to put themselves out there to really consider running for office. Obviously, Run for Something is an organization that helps, but there's a lot of other groups out there. I even made like just a toolkit document. It's like for people in New Orleans, like if you want to run for office, look at this. Like here's some of the obstacles you'll run into, and here's how you get around them. And yeah, I know at least like 3 or 4 people that have used it so far to actually run. And yeah, Gabby was one of them. So
Gabby was one of them, and then also, I mean, like in this election right now, I mean, you're endorsed by DSA New Orleans. It's a a member organization that's very dear to my heart. I was a member of that since 2018, a long time before I moved, out to Virginia, tragically. And then, but there are other people that are involved in that that are running for office as well that are also are we all running sort of as a like coordinated group, or are y'all sort of doing your own thing? And just sort of talk about that just sort of generally.
yeah, sure. So I won't get too into the weeds of our DSA
Yeah,
internal.
yeah. Just who are
Yeah.
the people and
But
you're working together?
yeah,
Yeah.
myself, Danielle Christmas, and Jackson Kimbrell, we're all DSA members, and all of us were showing interest in running. So we actually got together and like wrote out a resolution of like, okay, we would like the chapter to not necessarily endorse us, but at least like agree that we as a chapter should run a slate for city council. And that platform actually is the platform that we presented to the chapter, and it was voted uh, significantly in favor. And then from that process, we then went into being endorsed. But yeah, the 3 of us, had done a lot of deep coordination of like, what's going on in District E in the in the East and the Lower Ninth, what's happening in District C, on Algiers or the Bywater and the French Quarter, what's happening in District A with Uptown, Mid City, Bayou St. John, Fairgrounds, and finding a lot of that overlap, right? Like these are not, obviously they have their individual manifestations on a very localized level, but a lot of these problems are citywide.
Sure.
And it was pretty easy to get on the same page because we were all coming from the same spot of like, we are not just DSA members, we want to be DSA candidates, and that was a very easy sell for the 3 of us of like, you know, we want this organization to grow. So we even had goals of like, we want to gain 100 new members. We want to engage with 80% of our members in good standing, and like actually like grow the chapter as a part of this effort. And then obviously Pastor Gregory Manning joined DSA as well. And he's been a long time collaborator with our organization too. I think he even said I thought I was a member, I just didn't fill out the form right or something. So he became official. But yeah, we're all 4 of us are endorsed by the chapter through our endorsement process, which requires like uh, membership, vote of approval. And yeah, we're like we had a rally outside of the courthouse on qualifying day, and all 4 of us spoke, as well as other DSA members that are in different organizations like Renters' Rights Assembly, or Iron Surveillance, and Gabriella Biro had spoken as well. Devin Davis is there, and someone after who's not a DSA member, he was like, the 8 of y'all speaking, that was one of the best public speaking performances I've seen organized. And like, I don't know who organized it. Like, that was a group text that I threw like a couple of days before. It's like, we need to go out and speak.
Yeah.
And
get in front of people. That's really what it's about. I mean, you got to get in front of people.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And all of us, came from our own perspective, our own experiences, our own fights that we really try to hone in on. And it was just all politically coherent because at the end of the day, like, we are in an organization like DSA because it's not just about fighting for the thing that matters to me. It's understanding that all of our fights are the same fight at the end of the day, and we need to come together. We need to organize and do so democratically, right, in order to fight for our vision beyond capitalism.
Yeah. So so support from DSA has essentially looked like I've seen, canvassing operations. You have events like the one you just mentioned. And is there anything I'm missing? Like what else are we seeing here? I know there's a little bit of social media support as well. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. The chapter obviously has its own like social media presence. I think what's been cool is that they've been clipping a lot of our speeches from candidate forums and like really packaging like highlighting number one us as candidates, but number two like this is like the message that we're trying to sell for people of
Mhm.
what DSA is. I mention it every time I'm at one of these forums. That I am in Democratic Socialists of America, and like I'm putting people first, and really driving home the message of what we're trying to do. Outside of that, though, yeah, we try to do some fun activities. We had a event at I forget the Brew Carré in the quarter. That was a great time, and brought in a lot of people that I'm glad they were able to come out and show their support because like they're on the periphery. They might show up to some actions or protests or things like that. So it was cool to see a lot of people, I guess, in the fray start to
Mhm.
come in, which is really exciting. And then
Uh,
obviously finding opportunities for us as candidates to uplift the work that we're doing
mhm.
outside of electoral work. So, I was over at the brake light clinic that we did in August, um, which was outstanding. We had a really good turnout, both in terms of members, but also people that were looking for food, looking for the brake lights changed. Got a lot of honks.
Bro,
uh, and
I was looking at it like came up in like memories of some kind, one like app or whatever, and I think it's been 7 years since the first brake light clinic, which I was at, and it just makes me feel like an old man.
yeah, it's
And we're still
really,
doing them.
yeah.
Okay, we have 1 minute left. Where can people find information about your campaign and sort of like any last, parting words for today?
Yeah, Bob, the number 4, districta.com, or social media handles on all of them except for whatever fascist ones there are. Uh, and yeah, I guess my closing is just making an appeal again. Like you got to think outside of the ballot box. Democracy is not a one and done thing. It's a constant struggle, and I highly encourage you to check out organizations like DSA. Check out candidates like me that are trying to fight for local agency and dignity and making sure that we all are living in a fair, equal society.
All right.
Solidarity.
Yeah, solidarity. And so, yeah, this is just going to be a part of a series, hopefully, of folks who are running for city council. Obviously, if you are running for city council in any of the districts, you please reach out to the station. Please reach out to me, and we will try and set something up if we can. But Bob, thank you so much for coming on Good Morning, Comrade.
Absolutely. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you. Yeah, thank you to everybody for listening. This is WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. We love you. Bye bye.